Welcome to another edition of One Take Only. I'm George Phillips with OilPressure.com, along with my friend John McClellan. And John, let's get right to it. We're going to try to keep this
compact,
based on we get feedback, but we'll get right to it. Let's talk about the race at New Hampshire. Of course, on Wednesday they came out with a ruling that pretty much everybody, I think, it really expected. That they upheld Ryan Hunter-Reay's victory at New Hampshire. But before we talk about that, let's kind of go back to last Sunday and talk about the race at New Hampshire and most importantly, Will Power's antics after the race, because I know you and I had sort of a difference of opinion on that. So I'll let you go first.
Okay. Well, I know that Will will probably think I'm a wanker, but I'm a fan, Will. Remember that. And I'm a Penske guy. I just thought it was, he might agree with me, that it was inappropriate, and you wind up all over the place on websites, cartoons, some of the best photoshopped pictures out there. I mean, I laugh at them. I'm not a prude about it, but mind you. But you know, it's unfortunate that it was done on television, and you know, in today's world, you're filmed wherever you go, and whatever you do, and I think there's got to be a fine for it.
First of all, I will agree with you on one thing. There were some great Photoshop things out on the internet, and I'm going to give a special shout out to Will McCarty with Is It May Yet? And he did some great
I saw
things
those.
with it.
I saw those. Those were great.
But my take on it is that Will Power doesn't have a history of doing these type things. He's not a Paul Tracy. He's not a loose cannon. He saw an opportunity where he was actually going to be able to make some ground up on Franchitti, and then lo and behold, this restart that nobody wanted. I think everybody's in agreement that this restart shouldn't have taken place, but and all of a sudden, due to whatever reason it was, and due to that reason, he was, at the time, he thought he was just going to lose everything that he'd gained just due to a stupid decision. So personally, I like seeing this, especially out of somebody like Will Power, because I think a couple of years ago, I think a lot of people were saying that Will Power is kind of a Ryan Briscoe, Scott Dixon clone, very automaton, just very robotic.
Right.
And you know, we're actually seeing some passion and emotion out of Will Power. I like seeing that.
Yeah, and we're also seeing it out of Ryan Briscoe some, and Dixon. Dixon, I think he got his wish a little bit, where there was some unfortunate accidents with, for instance, Dario, who was very un-Dario-like. I know what, you know, he thought different, but that was very un-Dario-like. He's one of the top drivers in the series, and I would put him in an F1 car. However, he made a big mistake.
He did, and I don't see how anybody looking at that video could say that was Sato's fault, because that was clearly Dario's fault. But getting back to Will Power, I think that this one time, you give him a mulligan. Like I say, he does not have a history of this type of behavior. He was so, I mean, he was livid. You can look at that picture.
I know.
I mean, it's a funny picture. The look on his face is priceless. But you could tell he was literally out of his mind for that instant. And I think that you let it go. If it happens again, you really come down on him hard. But this one time, given the circumstances, you let it go. And I do find it interesting, because I was saying this the day after the race, that you let it go. You disagreed with me, but I do notice here we are. Now we're almost 2 weeks after that race, and there's still been no fine or punishment.
It's been quiet, because we've all been waiting for the panel of three to come up with. Who was on that panel, by the way?
It was Jerry Gaffins with the president of the New Hampshire Motor Speedway.
Okay.
Two guys from USAC. I can't tell you their names.
They're USAC guys. Okay.
Yeah, they're USAC guys.
Okay.
So they are used to reverting to the previous lap.
Yeah.
And Jerry Gaffins, I think, is not going to do anything to discredit the ruling that was made at his track. Also, I think he was pretty adamant right after the race that Brian Barnhart was such a man to come out and say such things.
Well, what are you going to do?
Big jet flying over.
What are you going to do about that? You know, you got to you're going to say those nice things about Barnhart.
Yeah,
and
but
what do you think about that? What do you think? You think Barnhart the job he's done, and we've got this thing going on with you know, the people in the turmoil. You got different camps. I'm in the camp that Ryan Hunter-Reay won this thing. It's over, and be done with it. You don't, you know, go ahead. You can appeal all you want or protest, but it's not going to change anything, and it didn't. You know, Ryan Hunter-Reay won that race, and it was his race. Just because an idiot says go green, and the field gets torn up when it's raining, and I don't think JR, Lone Star JR, Johnny Rutherford, who is the man, he didn't tell those people that it's great condition. You can go ahead.
No, in fact, I think it's now come out that he also told race control.
Yeah, race control.
But apparently, I think they're saying that, well, what happened there was that we were trying to communicate with him while he was trying to communicate with us, and they stepped on each other. So the whole thing was a fiasco. But I disagree with you in that I don't think it's a slam dunk that it was Ryan Hunter-Reay's race. I'm certainly not surprised at the outcome. I think that I would have been surprised had they given the race to Serbia. However, I think Serbia had a good case. I think video evidence shows that it's clear that, yes, the green flag did wave. Briefly as it was, it did wave. But Serbia clearly made the pass.
I thought Serbia made some very nice, cordial comments, you know, on Twitter today, you know, regarding the.
He did, and Newman Haas did.
Well, Newman Haas. I want to say this. I've been a fan of Newman Haas from its genesis. Paul Newman is one of the classiest guys to ever walk this planet, and it was a pleasure to have him in racing. And I was so glad to see him come back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Now, with that being said, I love Newman Haas. I think it's a wonderful race team, and the history is just phenomenal. I want to see them win, but that was not their race to win.
Well, I think
that was Ryan Hunter-Reay's.
I think it could have been, but I think that you can't blame them for protesting. I think they had to protest because I think Serbia clearly thinks he truly won that race, and if you truly believe that, you should protest.
I want to see them win next year, or even this.
I think you're going to see them win, possibly sometime still this year.
Good.
But the thing is, and I'm not going to say I've studied that rule book.
And
I
Hinch,
haven't.
I like the mayor of Hinchtown.
As I was saying,
yeah, go ahead.
I don't claim to have studied the rule book, but I think, listening to Kurt Cavan and Kevin Lee the other night on Trackside, Kevin Lee was right. He said that in that rule book there are 87 different times when the phrase "or at the discretion of the chief steward" comes at the end of each scenario. Well, that gives way too much latitude to the chief steward. Basically, as it's written, the chief steward can alter the outcome of any race he so chooses. Fortunately, he hadn't done that, but in this case, with the bad call, restart and everything, we're not going to get into the whether or not it should have been. I think that dead horse has been beaten to death enough.
Yeah.
And
it's unfortunate that Penske had to go fix their cars and all the carnage and it's expensive. This is an expensive sport.
And and not too many people have really commented on this, but when Will Power backed into that wall, that was a hard hit. And it was very similar to Simona's hit at Milwaukee.
And his other hit that he got 2 races before that.
Yeah, at Iowa.
Yeah, at Iowa.
At Iowa.
He might not have been able to have raced if they had a race the next week.
That's true, because he had a concussion. But we're also talking about a guy that's dealing with a broken back from 2 years ago. So thank God the only damage was done to the cars. Had Will Power broken his back from this, can you imagine the outcry that will be going on? So it's
that what's good though is that we all know that his reflexes were good afterwards, and his back was okay,
and his middle fingers worked great.
That's right.
But the thing is though about the panel. If they were to follow the rule book as it is currently written, they had no choice but to uphold that victory.
Right.
Because when you throw in that last sentence, or at the discretion,
the spirit of the rule.
Yeah. So
and I like the spirit of the rule.
So,
You know?
well, my take is that I wrote about Wednesday is that one of the main projects for this winter needs to be a complete revision of the rule book. They need to basically tear out that rule book and start it over. They need to trim it down. They need to get rid of a lot of the gray. I realize in racing there's going to be always some gray. You're always going to be dealing with some gray, but I think that they need to really get rid of a lot of the gray, and they need to really narrow the latitude that's given to the chief steward so that he does not have such power to do that. So
a committee up there, you know, with Al Unser Jr. would be the person there. Hey, George, I do want to say this, that was shaping up to be one killer finish. You had Scott Dixon back there, Servia, of course Ray Hall, and you also had Will Power, you know, who was fighting for position too. This was a big numbers for him. Catch up, and not only that too, it was good for Dixon. You know, I still think that, and I was really pulling for Ryan Hunter-Reay. I'm so impressed with that guy. The last two races, he was on both the road course and an oval, and was fantastic at both of them.
he has
Good race car drivers.
and you know, and we talked about this the last time, but Andretti Autosport, there's feast or famine with them.
Right.
I mean, they're
having a good year though, I think. You know,
Well,
compared
they-
to what that last year,
Well, they-
and in Indianapolis they were just horrible.
Well, two Ganassi drivers have won races this season. 3 Andretti drivers have won races this season. 1 Penske driver has won races this season. So that's, you know, Andretti's having. I don't know if you call it a good. It's not a good year when 2 of your cars don't qualify at Indianapolis.
No, that's not a good year. However, Long Beach.
Mike Conway won, but you know, I find it a little unnerving to look at Mike Conway's car and see it have a Twitter site on the side pod. I'm sorry, I have a little bit of a problem with that. But they're having a good, like I say, it's very up and down. It's feast or famine with them. Real quickly, we got, I'll be honest, one of my least favorite races coming up this season, this Sunday, Sonoma. Year after year, whether it's NASCAR or IndyCar or whatever, when they're racing at Sonoma, I always hear the announcers talk about how beautiful it is there.
I don't think it's beautiful.
I look at that and I see a dust bowl.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, I mean, maybe the surrounding area is beautiful, but I think that track is hideous. It always makes me thirsty to watch it.
It's very treacherous coming out of those pits. That's where Dario got swiped by young Marco.
Yeah,
and that's where he said I guess that's where the
that's
Andretti
pretty much I
thing
think where yeah, that's pretty much
leave.
Yeah, that's where they decided to, or I think that's where Dario finally decided to part ways.
That's it.
But John, I think you know, I'm pleased that we were able to put together episode 2.
I do too. I'm enjoying it, and I loved hearing what all you guys were saying about what George and I were putting together, and that you're enjoying it. One other thing too, George, you left me off with good reason for the Twitter. I got a Twitter. I'm going to put it on there. If you guys want to twit me, I'll twit you right back. Okay?
John McClellan.
At John McClellan.
John McClellan. That's
right.
it. So, but anyway, once again, thanks for tuning in. Who knows when we'll be back, but we'll
soon enough. We'll be back.
We'll do a third one.
Yeah, I can't wait.
But for John McClellan, I'm George Phillips with OilPressure.com. Thanks for tuning in.